So I want to ask the question today that Jane would ask. Her friend Karen came to her, and her friend Karen used to be involved in a church, a Bible teaching church, and she has since walked away or lapsed from the faith. And the question Jane has is, how do I evangelize? How do I reach out to this lapsed Christian? Well, I think one of the things we have to ask and really answer is first, is Karen a believer or not? And I think the way that we sort of respond to Karen's current faith predicament, faith situation, is largely determined by that belief. And I will tell you where I begin. I begin with the assumption that somebody who's disengaged from church and disconnected from spiritual life is not a believer, and thus I'm seeking to share the gospel with her in this case. And so I begin with that presupposition. If it's not true, that's okay. If she just needs to get right with the Lord and redirect her life, that's okay. But I just think a genuinely changed person genuinely changed by the power of the gospel, continues to walk in that. And so with graciousness and love, I want to just treat her in a gracious, loving way, but also seek to reach her for the good news of the gospel. There are three ways with a lapsed Christian that I would specifically do that. Number one is simply relational, is in conversations with Karen, I would ask her questions. Well, what made you drop out? Matter of fact, in our Lifeway research data, what we found is that lifestyle reasons were the most common reason that people dropped out of church. They simply got busy. And I think that shows that their faith wasn't necessarily rooted in their lives, but they got busy, they went off to college, they got a job, and they stopped attending. They lapsed. And so I want to ask Karen questions about that. Why did you do that? And I want to honestly listen to her and share my own struggles at time and be unapologetic and transparent that, sometimes I struggle with this or that. But by engaging Karen at the point of her struggle, I can ultimately point her to the Savior who helps her through those struggles. And so part of that, first and foremost, is just relational with her. The second thing is congregational. Is there oftentimes with a lapsed, lapsed Christian, to use kind of the general term, with a lapsed Christian, there's some sort of loose connection, maybe a Christmas and Easter connection with a church, and I would use that as an opportunity. Again, our Lifeway research data shows that people are particularly receptive to attend church. You knew this is not a secret, around holidays like Christmas and Easter. And so I suggest that you'd seize that opportunity in relationship to say to Karen, listen, why don't we go to Christmas Eve together? Why don't we then afterwards talk about it and say, do you still believe these things? Because when the answer to that is yes, and typically for a lapsed Christian, the answer to that is yes, I still believe these things. They haven't rejected, they've just kind of reconsidered and moved away. So I would say to her, do you still believe those things? And that then is the opportunity for the third thing, is for clear gospel proclamation. What I would say to Karen is, man, if you still believe these things in a relationship, maybe not right away, if you still believe that there was a guy who was dead on Friday and on Sunday not so much, that changes everything. And so I would seek to help her think through what she used to believe, help her do so in a congregation or in relationship with you in a congregation as well, so that ultimately she'll perhaps reconsider her lapsed condition, and she might think through what it means that Jesus died on the cross for my sin and in my place, and receive by grace and through faith the good news of the gospel. And that's my desire. My hope is that lapsed Christians, I guess I'm using that term generically, maybe I should put lapsed Christian, because I started by saying I sort of begin that conversation assuming that they need Christ. But in that lapsed Christian, at that moment, my desire is in a loving relationship, friendship that we have in a community that's a safe community, that Karen might be, again, challenged to make a dangerous decision to trust and follow Jesus as Savior and Lord.